Employer branding already exists since the beginning of times, okay, always, because a company has always a reputation.
What are the key elements that make up a strong employer brand?
I can tell you lots of them, but
It's always focused on going outside. But if the inside is broken or rotten, that won't work. Your process of developing an employer branding strategy from scratch.
hear what's happening in the company, read what's happening. The second one is to make a diagnosis. It could be co-creation, okay, get together all the people.
That's good because it also, when you bring co-creators, it's committing them to the changes, right? It's not just an HR thing that...
Artificial intelligence impact on jobs, impact on tools and efficiency and so on. It's interesting that at the same time, big challenge is to humanize companies.
With the rise of remote work and this global talent pool, how has talent attract and change and adapt?
It's not easy to get connected emotionally. If you go to a company, you take a coffee, you go to the restaurant, you speak to, you feel we are human, we are physical. So this is not very easy.
What key metrics do you use or should be used to measure success of an employer branding strategy?
As we are in a digital world, it's easier to get surveys, to transform perceptions, even emotions on data.
Platforms like Glassdoor ends up to be that lamentation wall. When people want to really say bad things, they can go there, put whatever they want. And there are not so many people doing that from the positive side. How could this be managed from a company side?
It's a very interesting question. What I think it's the most important way of getting information about a company is to ask other people.
What are some of the common mistakes that companies are making when they try to build their employer brands?
The worst one, I could say, is under-resourcing. Companies don't invest on this. It's a huge battle.
Hello, Luís.
Hello. Hi, João.
Thank you for your interest and availability in joining our conversation today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise, and as a small introduction for those that don't know you yet, so you are the founder and the CEO of Talent Portugal. And Talent Portugal is a talent attraction platform and for employer branding as well that joins candidates, companies, and universities together. But you will be a speaker at the HR Week Lisbon 2026 that will happen in April 28 and 29 this year. Luís, was this a good introduction of your profile?
Yes, I think I've made lots of things in my life. I think I have a long story of a career, but it's true that since 10 years ago, I work a lot on talent attraction and mainly in employer branding in my company.
That's exactly my first question for today. So if you could share a little bit about your journey into this world of employer branding and talent attraction, because this was not your original career path.
No. Originally, I'm a forest engineer, what is very peculiar. I've worked on that. After I have made an MBA in marketing, and then in year 2000, I entered in the digital world in the IT companies, in the .com bubble. And it was there that I first encountered the employer branding in a different way. I was like a business manager. I went to clients to sell products of IT services. And at the same time, I hire people. And at that time, and it happens today, it was harder, it was tough to hire people rather than sell services. So the beginning of interviews at that moment, I was more focused on sell the company for the candidates. So it appears a little bit like that, okay? It was in year 2000 and year 2017, after different experiences in IT and data centers and so on, I've launched the Talent Portugal platform, the community. And in the beginning, we have done a platform, and the first idea was to create a platform that help candidates find companies. And the first survey that I have done, it appears the word employer branding. I asked the people, what is the biggest trend for 2017? So some years ago.
17. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it was employer branding. After I have done a conference at that moment, okay, it's important. I've done a very small conference, and it grew a lot since then. And now in 2026, last February, we have done the International Employer Branding Conference here in Portugal. So it's a very interesting experience and very growing community, lots of new challenges. So it's a journey.
Employer branding is one of my favorite topics because it applies so many things in order for you to succeed and stand out there in the war for talent. But I still wanted to ask you, so if I'm a student, if I'm on a university and I want to know more about a certain company, what would be the difference for me to go to Talent Portugal platform rather than going, for example, to the website of the company? What would I see differently?
So it's important to go to the platform if the company has a career page. Some companies have, most of them I think, but many of them doesn't have. So we are a step behind. So our step is, if I want to search for companies that offer summer internships or trainees programs in my area that is marketing, in my region that is Lisbon, I have filters where I can search for, like a search engine, filters not for jobs. We are not a job board, filters for companies. So it's a very interesting tool to find companies with this specific criteria. After we have a first page like LinkedIn, and then the candidate can go deeply in the company in the career page.
After that, yeah, I think the keyword you used was finding, because if I'm a student, probably I'm not well aware of the market out there. So a platform like Talent Portugal, I would be using filters, and then I will discover companies that I didn't know that existed before.
Yes, for someone that has already experienced in their professional career, there are brands that you know very well. But for a student that is in university, some brands, especially B2B, they are not known for them. So it's very important to work at the beginning, not in the conversion, but in the awareness, okay?
Awareness, exactly.
In marketing funnel, it's very important to work, and we work a lot on that, on awareness. We found that we have like hidden treasures, companies that are really interesting, that nobody knows them.
So it's employer branding awareness.
One part. Awareness, consideration, of course, conversion, but the first step is awareness, yes.
Well, for you and I, it's a term that we know very well, but for people that don't know that much, how would you define employer branding, and what role does it play in attracting top talent?
First of all, I would like to say one thing. Employer branding already exists since the beginning of the times, okay? Always. Because a company has always a reputation. So employer branding begins on the employer brand. And employer brand is the reputation of a company as an employer. You can have corporate brand, you can have consumer brand, but you have also employer brand, okay? Employer branding is the process to promote, to use the tools to promote that employer brand, okay? So in the funnel, as we told before, the awareness, consideration, the desire to work, and after the conversion.
What are the key elements that make up a strong employer brand?
I can tell you lots of them, but I will mainly say 4, okay? 4. The first one, that is the biggest word in employer branding, that is EVP, Employer Value Proposition. Sometimes we call also Employee Value Proposition. But it's the proposal for the company that has different pillars to attract the candidates, but also, and even more important sometimes, to retain or fidelize the employees. What's the second one that is very important is the consistency. It must be clear, transparent. What you say outside the company to the candidates must be what you live inside the company.
Sure.
So this is something that happens a lot now. Also, the third one, it's internal engagement. You need to engage people in the company, okay? The people need to be motivated. Sometimes they have the skills, they have all to do the right work, but they are not motivated. And at the end, that is sometimes not so cute, it's the data. You need data after all to decide what is the decisions that you are going to make to do the best employer brand. Okay, so I can say that these are the 4 key elements. Of course, we have more.
It's so interesting that almost on all 4, if I'm not mistaken, they were very focused on the inside of the company and not on the outside. So people being happy, being consistent in what to do internally, the data from internally, which for me was also a surprise, because when you think about employer branding, is also the billboards, it's out there, the message is, hey, come and work for us, etc. So it's always focused on going outside. But if the inside is broken or rotten, that won't work, right?
Yes, exactly. Of course, in employer brand, you have that idea that is for the external public, but it's also for the internal, and it begins in the internal. And it's because we use the words attraction and retention. Retention now is a word that it's not good. People don't like, of course, and it's true because it seems okay. Don't leave our company. It's not the idea.
Please don't leave.
The idea is stay with us. We want to make a project together. If there's one day that it's not good for both, of course, each one can go on their way. But the importance is that the people get aligned with the company and motivated. It's very important also because regarding retention or fidelization, each employee that goes away, it's a huge problem to the company. So the turnover, especially in areas like IT, it's a huge problem. There are companies on IT, sometimes they don't say publicly, but they can have maybe 20, 30 more % of people that are changing every year.
We know the market is on fire on those sectors, right?
It's changing. The IT is changing. Now we have a shift, okay?
Yeah.
IT is going down a little bit, but now engineering is going up. So it's sometimes the market is dynamic.
It's a big challenge when you work in a sector or on a market where your employees get 10 offers every day on LinkedIn, right? So that employer branding must really be strong for those cases. Well, thinking about that, imagine that there's a company trying to improve its employer branding and has never done anything like that under that framing. So could you walk us through your process of developing an employer branding strategy from scratch?
We have lots of companies that come to us to ask that, okay? In Portugal, we have very different companies in the different levels of implementing employer brands. So what I would say first, of course, it's our service, but it's go to the employer branding conference because you must, first of all, you must inspire yourself, okay? Mm-hmm. Inspire, get information, talk with other people. It's important to be aware of the status of employer branding and what other companies are doing, okay? Also, it's important for you, your team, to make a team, of course, have someone working on that and do traineeships on employer branding. And after implementing the process of real employer branding, that I could also divide on 4 steps again, okay? So the first one will be active listening. So hear what's happening in the company, read what's happening, listening to people from every employee and also the leaderships. The second one is to make a diagnosis, okay? Okay. Listen, make a diagnosis. What are the doubts, the blockage, and so on. There are different tools to help that, okay? There are more and more tools. The third step could be co-creation. Okay, get together all the people. Okay, we have these diagnosed. We have listened to people. What we can together create and aligned. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Align the strategy and also the communication.
That's good because it also, when you bring co-creators, as you mentioned, it's committing them to the changes, right? It's not just an HR thing it's HR thing talking about employee. No, it's with the leadership also recognizing the problems, suggesting action plans. So that's really clever.
Yes. In the last event, we had projects like Novo Banco that we present there. Also, Philip Morris from 𝘍𝘵𝘍. There are lots of interesting projects that have done a huge work on this, because sometimes it's not easy because there are lots of people in several companies. Sometimes this is made for every company, okay? It's the small and the bigger one. Right. And only to finish, the fourth step also is testing, okay? And execution, of course. Execution. You need to execute. There's lots of kinds of agencies, or you can do internally, make activation, and after, okay, what's working well or what is not working.
I'm assuming that Talent Portugal could help throughout all this process as well.
Yes, normally we work on the first step. So we are like in this market, we work like a hub, okay, like a place where the people get together, where the people can share experience between companies. And also between providers and new solutions are happening. So we don't provide a solution, a service, but we help people getting together and working. And we are improving that. Okay.
In talent attraction, how have you seen this topic evolve over the past few years? And what do you think it's going to be this next big trend in this area?
We all talk about the same thing today. AI, artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is getting very fast on every work that we do on our life. And of course, it also will impact on this, impact on jobs, impact on tools and efficiency and so on. But it's interesting that at the same time, the big challenge is to humanize companies, humanize relations, okay? And especially the new generations that are used with digital tools, they have lack of soft skills like empathy, like emotion intelligence, sometimes mental health. So it's a huge impact on both, okay? We get more digital, more artificial intelligence, but at the same time, we need more people. This is a very interesting issue that we and Talent Portugal are working now. So I think it's the big challenge.
We need to humanize the companies.
Yes. Because companies are human. Companies are not only financial, they are not buildings, factories. What makes the difference much now, it's easy to get money. Sometimes it's easy, not so easy, but it's easy to build, to buy machines, but to get the right people, motivate, human, understand the people, it's the subjective, it's very important. It's getting more and more important, okay? Human side of companies.
With the rise of remote work and this global talent pool, how has talent attract and change and adapt for employers?
Remote work that grew fast after the COVID, especially, it's something that can be very good for both, for companies and for the employees, of course. But it has huge challenges. One of them is how to build a culture, how to get connected people that are so far away between them. Okay,
yes.
And also, of course, looking the side of the companies, how can I be sure that my colleague, my employee is working? Of course, in some areas, very easy to get objectives, okay, to get the work done. But other works are not so easy because they are day-to-day life, so it's not easy for the companies to check, is it working or not? Of course, this is something happens always, okay? Or very often. But the big problem is that people are very far one from the other. It's not easy to get connected emotionally. If you go to a company, you take a coffee, you go to the restaurant, you feel we are human, we are physical. So this is not very easy.
It's impossible in remote.
Yes. The other difference is also that the people for the companies it's not easy because people don't have a strong sense of belonging to the company, so they can go away and change very fast one company to another. What happens frequently? People easily, because they don't have human relations with the other colleagues or the leaders, and so they can change. And so it's a very also competitive world because you can compete the talent between Portugal and other countries. There are people. Right. I will speak with a candidate next Monday that she said to me a funny thing. She says, "No, I don't work in Portugal for 10 years." No, you don't work. But you have the address in Porto. Yes, I work in Porto, but for foreign companies.
Foreign companies, yes.
But I want to work in Portugal again. But it's not the first one. We feel that are people that now, the candidates, the employees that want to earn less money, but be in an office, okay? So many things are changing.
So I'm guilty here because I know a bit the reality. And there's a sweet spot for remote work. You need to like the good things of managing your own time, etc. But at the same time, you need to survive without that relationships without the emotional connection that you mentioned, right? So, yep, working remotely becomes very transactional. Could end up becoming very transactional.
Yeah, yes, very transactional. The hybrid model works very well. Okay, so if the people can work focused sometimes in their places, of course they feel comfortable, they feel focused on work, but at the same time you need to have times to be together. Okay, you cannot, it can be 2 days in the office, sometimes less than that, but feel that there's someone on the other side. Okay, one thing that's happened a lot, and what we feel in our events, is that the people now look a lot for events, because the connection is not only between colleagues, it's the connection between clients and sellers, okay? So because it's all, the people don't, before I went a lot to different places, to office, to visit, I feel the places, I feel the people inside the companies, and now the commercial process, it's external, it's remote, and that also is very important, that we had times, even if it is an event, some events, to get together, okay?
What key metrics do you use or should be used to measure success of an employer branding strategy?
Okay, so metrics are always important. I'm an engineer, okay? I love metrics, statistics. So in this area, there are lots of new tools appearing, okay? As we are in a digital world, it's easier to get surveys, to have data, to transform perceptions, even emotions on data, okay? So there are tools that can be engagement surveys inside the company. We have also rankings from outside, rankings like great employers, great place to work, top employers, Merco Talent, like also Magma. There are different surveys that help companies understanding what's happening outside. And of course, when you activate an employer branding, an EVP, you must also measure. But there are lots of important happenings or things that happen that are not measurable. And so it's very important to have quantified key KPIs, but also to make qualifications like interview people, speak with them, because you can find lots of information that are not on data.
So for example, platforms like Glassdoor, I have a personal opinion that Glassdoor ends up to be that lamentation wall. When people want to really say bad things, they can go there and just put whatever they want. And there are not so many people doing that on the positive side. So it ends up to be the place where you can see only on the bad side of the companies. Does this make any sense? And if that's the case, how could this be managed from a company side?
It's a very interesting question. And also because reviews are very used by GEO, by generative AI.
In what way, Luís?
ChatGPT or Gemini, when you ask, how is to work in this company? They go to Glassdoor reviews, maybe to Reddit. They can go also in Portugal to TeamLizer. The places where there are reviews that for the people should be more, I would say, isentos, okay? Independent, okay? So that is a very huge problem. But of course, reviews are very important. And reviews were the origin of lots of platforms like Airbnb, like Trivago, like Uber, and so on. So it's normal that you use, and the idea, the founders of Glassdoor, I think they worked also, I don't know if it was in Trivago, the idea was, okay, let's use the same review system in companies. Of course, there are sectors where this is very clear. Of course, there is always a problem of people that say bad. Sometimes it's different. In the hotels, we have the idea, we prefer sometimes to say good about the hotel. Oh, I enjoyed it. It was very nice. In companies, I don't know why, or maybe it's normal that people that don't like prefer to speak there and to sometimes liberate their feelings. But I think it's important to have that. Companies need to manage, they cannot ignore. I spoke the other day with a huge company that said, oh, we are going to ignore that because it's not our field of battle, okay? But what I think also that maybe there is a space in the platform side to improve their reviews, okay, or the way of the reviewing. I don't know why, I don't know how, okay, but it's important because reviews are important. And also, of course, platforms or awards or rankings like Merco Talent, like Great Place to Work and Top Employers also make a role here important for the candidates to decide. But finally, and sorry for this so extensive, what I think is the most important way of getting information about a company is to ask other people if we have. And the word of mouth, the boca a boca in Portuguese, it still works, okay? So tools that help people to get in touch with other people that work in that companies are the best way to do that. So it's because of this that in employer branding there's a part that the companies want to develop, that is employee advocacy.
The promoters, right, in the NPS score, right?
Yes, and at that side, there's lots of work to do, lots of tools. One tool that is growing a lot is internal social networks, like LinkedIn inside a company, where the people can promote or can share their experience inside the company. And at the same time, that share of experiences, they can share on social network. It's outside the company. There are appearing very good tools on this, okay? It's a very good path for the companies, okay? Rather than reviews, no, our employees will promote my company outside in the social network.
What are some of the common mistakes that companies are making when they try to build their employer brands?
Again, I will say 3, okay? The first one we told before is the coherence, okay? The alignment. You must be aligned external, what you do internal. You cannot say what you don't are, okay? So that is the first step. After the second one is neglecting the EVP. Okay, I don't do EVP. Sometimes they say that they have a EVP, employer value proposition, but they don't have really. So you must do a very an EVP well done. And of course, the third one, maybe the worst one, I could say, is under-resourcing, okay? Companies don't invest on this. It's a huge battle for the employer branding managers, the people from talent acquisition to say to their leaders, to their CEOs, you must invest, you need more people, you need people qualified, so you need to invest on this. And sometimes it's not easy. Maybe this is the biggest challenge inside companies for employer branding teams.
Thank you, Luís, for everything that you shared. And just for the ones that are interested, I've left on the video description the link for Talent Portugal and for the Employer Branding Conference. I've seen that the last Employer Branding Conference happened recently. So what are the plans for the next event? Is there already dates planned?
Yes, we have plans. We learn. We want to change everything. No, but we want to change the format. So we want to do more workshops. The people want to share between them. We want to get more international. There are lots of people from other countries that want to come to Portugal to want to share. Okay, so it's a very interesting thing. And also work lots on case studies. People want to know what other companies are doing. So I think these will be the 3 major improvements that we are going to do for the next year. And it's going to be 26, 27 of January.
Why should HR professionals attend the HR Week Lisbon?
You should come to HR Week because it's a big gathering of people, of experts on HR, the biggest gathering of people that can network between them. It's a privilege to have this event in Lisbon this year.
Who will benefit the most from attending the HR Week Lisbon?
The people that will benefit the most will be the people that want to get inspired. More than have answers, have questions, questioning themselves, questioning others, get inspired, getting different perspectives. And of course, at the end of the event, have a little willingness to change the world.
What will HR leaders miss if they don't attend the HR Week Lisbon?
You don't want to get FOMO, fear of missing out. So please go there because there are lots of different things, new perspectives, and it's important to get connected and also to improve yourselves.
What is one practical insight that people will take away from your session at the HR Week Lisbon?
We are going to talk about a different perspective. We talk about employer branding. Of course, we talk about culture, but we are going to talk from purpose to culture to employer branding. Employer branding begins on purpose, the purpose of the company, of the employees, of the leaders.
Luís, we are getting close to the end. And for everyone that comes into the show, I like to ask for a recommendation, someone that they feel could be a next interesting guest in the show. Who would you like to recommend?
I would like to recommend 𝘵𝘠𝘐. She is the CEO of an employer branding agency for Brazil that works Latin America. And I think she could gather lots of good insights from America, especially Latin America.
Challenge accepted. Thank you for the recommendation. Luís, I hope that I can see you in person on the 28th and 29th of April in the HR Week Lisbon and shake your hand, take a selfie, and who knows what the future brings.
Let's meet there. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.